The uncanny valley is a theory about the relationship between how close an object looks to the human form and our emotional response to it. Humanoid objects that come close to looking like a human but don't perfectly model it result in greater and greater feelings of revulsion. You can see examples of this in animation, mannequins, and art. The question is, why? Why have humans developed a biological revulsion for things that look just like us, but with something just a little bit wrong? Across the human race, we've developed universal biological reactions to certain external stimuli. Vertigo and a fear of heights prevent us from ignoring the danger that a steep fall could present to us. Fear of the dark warns us of the predators that might be lurking in the spaces that we can't see. What then was so terrifying in the development of our species that we developed a universal fear of things that look almost like us? Invasion of the Body Snatchers is a classic take on this concept, but it's far from the only one. The Thing, shapeshifters, skinwalkers, even zombies all warn us to look closely at our kin to make sure that they are truly one of us. Today, we're looking at what makes a good monster. This is something you can use in all of your writing, whether you're a dungeon master, a novelist, a screenwriter, or even a poet. A good monster plays off the primal fears held by all humans. That's why the greatest horror movies all play off the innate fears we all possess. But that's not the end of it. Some of the greatest horror concepts that I've seen executed recently develop their monsters through a consistent set of rules, and then tie your survival to the manipulation of those rules. It allows you to understand the monster and gives you just that faint hope of defeating it. Let's take a look at the 2014 film It Follows. The story focuses on a girl running away from a monster that relentlessly follows a specific target until it can kill them. The monster follows a set of rules, however. It can never stop walking directly towards you. It can transform to look like people you know. The curse can be transferred to a new target through sex. If the next target dies, though, it will go back up the chain until it gets back to you. That's it. Now let's break down how and why this monster works. The fear. A monster is after you, and it won't stop until it kills you. Even if you stop moving, it won't. The hope. You can outrun the monster. You can transfer the curse to someone else through sex. However, a good strategy might not be falling into the temptation to spread the curse, because then you never know when it's after you. This movie plays off societal guilt felt towards sex and uses the monster as a sort of STD stand-in, or perhaps even divine or societal retribution for the rules laid out about sexual repression. In a way, the movie acts as a sort of puritanical fever dream. The rules of your church and of your parents judge you and follow you until you die. The dreamlike aspect of this film leads into some problems with it. The movie occasionally breaks its own rules for drama purposes and to make it feel more like a fever dream. It becomes less hard magic horror and slips into soft magic. What I mean by hard magic is in reference to magic systems or hard sci-fi. It has rules that can be understood and calculated, to an extent, by the viewer. Brandon Sanderson's books like the Stormlight Archive and Mistborn are examples of this. Soft magic systems are like Lord of the Rings or Wizard of Earthsea. Magic exists, but it's ineffable. You can't understand it and you're not supposed to. Neither of these systems are superior to the other, but content can suffer if you make the viewer think they're in one and then switch to another, which is where It Follows falls a bit short of really nailing that true horror monster. So what is an example of a soft magic monster? Look no further than Lovecraftian horror. The eldritch beings that taunt the very sanity of the characters within Lovecraft stories are not to be understood. To see them is to lose all sense of self, all grasp on reality. They haunt the very edges of our psyche. Thus, most stories about them feature loss of sanity as the core primal fear. See how that all circles around? Even when the monster defies understanding, the fear it relies on is all too real. Let's look at one more hard magic monster from one of my favorite episodes of television. You might know the one I'm talking about. The standalone episode Blink from season 3 of Doctor Who features one of the best examples of a well-executed horror monster. There are these statues of weeping angels that are actually monsters and can only move when you can't see them. The idea of a weeping angel is based on a fun take on quantum theory, if one that's a bit goofy if you think about it too much. Think Schrodinger's cat. The idea of something moving or changing only when it's not observed is something that's as core to us as the game Red Light, Green Light. It plays on our fears of predators in the dark, the unknown, and the unknowable. However, the idea that an entire species developed with this trait when simply being observed by another member of the same species could quantum lock them in place forever, it's a little wonky. In fact, in future episodes, when they try to expand the lore on these creatures, they just end up weakening the core concept. It's diluted because the new ideas don't strengthen the primal fear that was the basis for the monster. And they straight up break the rules in ways so ridiculous I can't even give it the "it follows" justification. So, how do you make a monster? Well, let's take a look at a community of folks who've been doing it for years now, the SCP Foundation. The SCP Foundation is a website about a fictional organization that collects information about entities that violate natural law. Read monsters. The website features many articles about specific monsters and has spawned a lot of really good horror stories. In fact, a whole form of oral tradition has flourished on the internet as scary stories called creepypastas are spread through text on forums on Reddit like Arno Sleep or on YouTube videos. The creepypasta Ben Drowned, great name, is a simple scary story about a haunted Nintendo cartridge. The primal fear there? Maybe it's as simple as the fear of ghosts, which is an extension of our fear of revenge, one that extends past human lifetimes. My personal favorite is the False Hydra monster written for a D&D game by Arnold K. on the Goblin Punch blog. It's a monster that when it kills someone, all memory of them disappears. You can imagine how that might affect an adventuring party. One of the joys of having such a large database is that you can use it as a prompt for yourself, or as monster inspo. Sure, that False Hydra sounds scary, but what if you were the only one that could remember those who had disappeared, and no matter what you did, no one would believe you? Already my mind is writing that whole story, which is what makes monsters such a goldmine for narrative. Hey Ben, we're gonna go head back to the village this session. Oh, sure, what for? We're gonna return the lost scroll to Innkeeper Ruxin. Wait, who? The Innkeeper. He was gonna use the scroll to heal his daughter Veruca. Wait, Veruca? Hold on, let me check my notes. What was the name of the village again? Spring Valley Village. Then I'll pull out my notes for Spring Valley Village, and all I'll have will be blank sheets of paper. So what makes a monster? Primal fears, creative ideas, and sticking to hard or soft rule sets within the confines of a work. Once you have that monster, well, you've already started making the story in your head, haven't you? My name is Ben DeHart. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe and... Wait, who are you again? See ya.